I know some of you may feel a little uncomfortable at the idea of having a giant Russian mercenary perform a full cavity search, but don't worry. He nearly always manages not to tear out anything too vital. You may even enjoy it. I know I did.
This is the Citadel Cafe. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 76, recorded live Wednesday, August 21st, 2013. I am Joel Duggan, and to my right is a mirror, if you will. I am joined by my friend Joel. Also Joel.
Hey, Joel.
Joel too. Hi, Joel.
Also Joel.
Yeah, Joel Cain from, well, I don't know actually remember where you're from. Where are you from?
I am from Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Cain from Cincinnati, ladies and gentlemen. I met Joel at Nerdtacular. It turns out we're both Frog Pants fans, both podcasting, I want to say wannabes, but podcasting.
Well, I'm the podcasting wannabe. You're already in progress.
Well, dude, you are now.
All right.
As of right now, you are a podcaster. So coined.
Perfect.
I've knighted you.
I'm going to keep this recording and show that to people to prove to them.
There you go.
When they don't believe me.
You might want to ask them to listen to it as opposed to just showing them the recording, because then they might not believe you.
No, fair enough.
But,
That's a good point.
just to cover all your bases, sort of.
Right.
But yeah, Joel and I met at Nerdtacular, and we had a great time hanging out on the last night there with $4 martinis.
Yeah.
Your friend Matt, now our friend Matt, Jocelyn, and I think War Crusher was there. And there's a couple of other people too. Someone was like, her name was April, but I don't think that was her name. I think that was her screen name. And her husband, I think.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I can't.
Aprillian or something like that. I can't remember. Yeah. Anyway, there was a handful of us there the last night in the hotel after Nerdtacular. It was a nice evening, just kind of sitting around talking podcasting and video games and all that kind of stuff. Turns out we have a lot in common, so there was an invite. I guess, laid at that moment for a later guest spot on the Citadel Cafe, and it's taken all summer to sort out when that was going to happen.
That's all right. Hey, by the way, thank you so much for the invite and for having me on here.
Oh, you're welcome, man. No, my pleasure.
To be here.
My pleasure. I mean, and we've been keeping in touch with Twitter, and obviously we're into all the same geeky things. And if you are into the same geeky things that we are, then we will just simply let you know what is cool, what is hip, what is with it. If you got that joke, then you are as old as I am, and that's good. The Citadel Cafe is where myself and a guest and possibly some other friends come to hang out and talk about geeky sci-fi fantasy stuff. We're not myopic. We cover everything from books to apps, websites, movies, that kind of thing. A lot of it happens on Netflix and YouTube, as it were. So if that is your mindset, then you are in the right place for a good time. And the other thing that happens around here is that the show is recorded live on Wednesday nights. There is a live chat room, which is currently being populated by TCC Fan and War Crusher. So if you want to join these fine folks, you can stop by joelduggan.com/live every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern and join in the show. You can ask us some questions. You can throw us your 2 cents about what we're talking about. All that kind of fun stuff. We will also send out links live during the show whenever we can about what we're talking about in case there's something that is relevant that you need to visit on the internet. Because it's great. We have the internet at the fingertips the whole show. So there's no excuses for forgetting names and places and, geeky facts, which happens all the time.
And yet I will still find a way to do it.
Absolutely. So Joel from Cincinnati, remind me and tell everybody else, like what is it that you do? Like what's your lot in life?
Like my day job?
Sure.
Well, my day job is I am a record specialist, quote unquote, for an insurance company. I basically sit by myself in a giant room full of paper and files and sort stuff, which is thrilling, let me tell you.
Well, you're a very organized young man, I'm sure.
Well, they want me to be. I live by order through chaos. I know where everything is. It just might not look like it.
Well, look, if you know where everything is and no one else does, that means no one can screw it up.
Yeah, no one can take my job. So I guess there's some job security there.
There you go. You have your own system. It's the Dewey Decimal Alphabetical slash, your sister's middle name system, and then you can just go from there, and then no one else can decipher the code.
That's right. I might have to actually put that into practice.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
And outside of the day job, you obviously have some geeky interests. And I know that we talked about this in Untitled, but you're a big video gamer.
Yeah, huge gamer.
And I know that we're talking like sci-fi and fantasy stuff like this on the show. But what kind of games are you into? Like what kind of genres?
Well, when I was a kid, I was really into big epic RPGs, Legend of Zelda, things like that, things that didn't require other people to play. And now that I'm older and I can afford to have my own internet and things like that, I've kind of moved away from things like that. I like World of Warcraft is awesome. I haven't played it much lately, but I really like it. I'm really looking forward to some of the games coming out for the next gen consoles. They look to be really heavy in multiplayer, and not just multiplayer, but requiring teamwork. That's kind of what I'm into right now is where your skills make the difference about whether or not you win instead of whether or not you train the right ability.
Yeah, I've been looking at a lot of new MMOs that are coming out, and the thing that's got my attention is Wildstar, and they just released something new today about crowd control and movement and skill-based stuff as opposed to just stat-based stuff.
Yeah.
So just because you are a higher level character doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to win. You certainly have an upper hand, but if you stand like a tree and just try to shoot the other guy, and they're moving all over hell and high water and avoiding your attacks, well then, you might end up losing to a, slightly lower level character. So I find that appealing because one of the things that I had to deal with World of Warcraft is that both Jocelyn and I were late to the game. I tried it years ago. I got to level 40. Jocelyn and I started playing a year and a half ago, fresh new characters. She'd never played before, so we leveled together, got all the way to 90. I'm not quite there yet. I'm like a half level away, but but everybody is already there. So PvP is something I just completely avoided because everybody is just geared to the nines, and like I having never done it. I mean, I know you've got to start somewhere, but it's just like, until I'm end level and have some time to pull together some gear, then I really don't want to bother, because it's one of those situations where movement matters, but not nearly as much as it does in a movement-based combat system. Because I mean, you can technically just let the dice roll for you, and avoid attacks and stack your dodge and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm very curious to see the new kind of games that are coming out. What have you been following Gamescom at all?
Not religiously, but my buddy and I were actually just talking right before the show, and we were talking about some of the games coming out of there, and there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of there.
Yeah, and PlayStation 4, from the people that I know that know gaming, seems to be taking a big lead.
Yeah, it definitely, in the general mind share, if you want to put it that way, I believe PS4 seems to have an upper hand right now. But I mean, you can't really blame them because Microsoft made a lot of mistakes announcing the Xbox One. First and foremost was announcing it a day before Sony's conference and announcing complete paradigm shifts in the way that games are going to be played on the system. So Sony, of course, took that opportunity to just bash them into the floor, and that did not help them at all.
No, I agree. I remember watching those with Jocelyn, kind of going, man, like, not only did they make a big mistake, but they gave Sony enough time to change stuff, if even Sony had to change anything. I think we've mentioned it here on the show before, but one of my favorite little videos that came out of the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 announcement was the CEO and like the American director, I think, of Sony, talking about how you share PlayStation games. And it was this great big production video, which like, music and lights and sound effects and like how to share PlayStation games. And the CEO hands the game to his counterpart in the US and goes, "Here you go." And the guy goes, "Thank you." And that's it. Like you hand it to your friend, he takes it home and he plays it. That's it. Thought it was great.
It's pretty funny.
It's so funny how our digital lives have gotten so complicated. Like, if I have a book and I want to loan you a book and you live in the same town as me, I just give you the book.
Right.
With Kindle, you can loan books, but you can only loan them for like 6 days or something 14 days, however long.
Yeah, yeah.
I've never read a book in 2 weeks, I don't think, outside of like
Oh.
when I lost the power in a hurricane 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. I have a different mentality about it because, I mean, being an independent artist, I need the support of my readers to buy my book. But if I sold a PDF to somebody for $10,
Yeah.
it's theirs to do whatever the hell they want with it. If they want to give it to a friend or loan it to a friend or make a copy of it to a friend, that's on them. For me, it's another set of eyeballs on my work. To get it, somebody still had to pay for it.
Right.
And I've seen time and time again authors that put their books up on online stores for a limited time when they first launch them for free. And they go, for the next 48 hours, the book is free. Buy it, read it, share it, love it. Just tell everybody. And there's this huge, influx of downloads. But not everybody gets there in the first 24 to 48 hours. And those people are then left to pay the $7 or $8 or whatever dollars that the author wants. And what happens is they start to snowball. They start the avalanche going with the free. Everybody starts reading and talking about it because in 24 hours, unless you're a really well-read individual, you're probably not going to read the whole book. So you're going to get 3 to 4 chapters in.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tell your friend, "Oh my God, you have to read this," but then of course it's no longer free.
Right.
But then it's worth the $7. Because it would be different, I think, if it was a different product, like a video game that costs $60 or $80. I don't know if that would necessarily work where it's free for a day and then everybody else is going to pay the full price.
Right.
I don't know if that would hold, but because you've got this nominal under $10 purchase, it seems to balance things out. But with video games, something, because I'm not an expert by any means, I'm a casual gamer at best. I can see the benefit of getting people to borrow games, because even if you don't go out and buy a copy of the game yourself, because sometimes game content is short, or it's a multiplayer. I mean, the benefit is that it might be a multiplayer game. You might borrow it for a weekend, get a multiplayer account signed up, and then have to give it back to your friend so he can play again,
right?
Or she, and then you're like, well, crap, I really want to play this now, and you have to go and buy a copy. It's like, I don't know. I can see the boon of making trading free, and I don't understand why there's been this blockade.
Well, it's I'll tell you my theory. It's similar to the music industry. I don't know if you know, but when Linkin Park, the band Linkin Park first got started, before they had a record deal or anything, they would record their music and put it out as a BitTorrent. And so to this day, they don't actively go after people who BitTorrent their songs, because to them, it's like you said, it's just an extra set of eyeballs on your work. For them, it's the same thing. It's an extra pair of ears listening to their music.
Yeah.
And they've found that their sales actually are higher because of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's other ways to make money too. I mean, like I remember, I think it was Coldplay that put their album out for Pay What You Want.
Oh yeah,
this
I've
was
heard
years
of that.
ago. I can't remember which album, but it was a good couple of years ago. And like they said, pay what you want. It's $1 a song is $10. The average. I think they might have displayed the average price, which was like $13.99 or $14.99 or something like that. So people were paying upwards of $1.50 per song. But some people were downloading it for free, and that's fine because all these people fall in love with the songs because they're Coldplay fans,
right?
Or they are soon Coldplay fans if they like it. Then all of their concert dates are completely sold out.
Yeah, and that's where bands make most of their money anyway. When you buy a CD from a band, most of that money goes to the record label.
Yeah, and I'm not a big music fiend. Like, I mean, I like some stuff, but I don't spend days listening to music. Which is surprising because I draw so much, but most of the stuff I listen to is podcast.
Yeah.
With music though, I could see like it's the same way that I'm kind of making it as a webcomic artist, posting my comic each week online for free. I could see musicians posting their albums, for free, and completely skirting publishers like record labels and stuff like that, because it's the same way that I skirt around a book publisher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people actually, a lot of indie artists actually put their stuff just up on YouTube, because once you hit a certain level of viewer numbers you can actually partner with YouTube, and you get some of the ad revenue.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been looking into ad revenue on YouTube recently, actually, because I've been doing some videos. Like when I record art and stuff like that, I post it up on YouTube. Sometimes it's a time lapse thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but it's funny that you mention it because the Citadel Cafe is now on YouTube.
Oh,
And I mentioned it last week on the show, and I just posted the first episode, which was episode 75, last week's show, on YouTube. It's just on my channel, which is youtube.com/Joel Duggan. And this is where I'm going to continue to post episodes of the Citadel Cafe. And if you like it, if you want to enjoy it on YouTube and you want to share it with your friends, add it to a playlist, do whatever it is that you want to do, add some comments, share it around, because I'd like to see YouTube as a possible way of gaining some revenue, for the show. We have nominal costs; it's just hosting and that kind of stuff. But I mean, it all adds up. And I'm not sure how an audio show is going to go on YouTube because there's really no video content. I mean, I make a title card. It's the same art that I do each week, with the episode name and the guest and stuff like that. But there's no real video content. So I guess it loans itself to multitasking. If you prefer, to subscribe to stuff on YouTube, maybe you've got like a set-top box on your TV that's hooked up to your big stereo, and that's how you like to listen to stuff. Well, you can find the Citadel Cafe on YouTube now. Right now, it looks like obviously the first place that the new episode hits is going to be the website and iTunes because audio is easy. We record live, so it's just a matter of me putting it together and posting it. The video, unfortunately, takes a little bit longer. It's just a title card, as I said, but the export process puts my little MacBook Pro through hell and back. So it's something that I have to do kind of at the end of the evening, which means I have to remember to do it. Before I go to bed, I have to hit export. So it's probably going to be Fridays or Saturdays. Right now, I usually post the new show on Thursday, so I'm hoping to try to get into a groove where I am used to it, and then be posting the new show on YouTube on Friday or Saturday, so it's there for the weekend. But that's some news on, I guess, the Citadel Cafe front. And actually, personally, this week for me, I have some news that I wanted to share with everybody. I was actually interviewed by JetPens at jetpens.com. And they are a website that specializes in art supplies and pens in particular. And they're not just for drawing; they're for writing or whatever it is that you need a pen for.
Oh, cool.
And they come with, I mean, God, there's so many different things. With back to school right now, I mean, there's stuff for kids, there's stuff for school, there's stuff for professional artists, there's stuff for calligraphers and people that just like to sit in a coffee shop and write the old-fashioned way. But if you're interested at all in checking out the interview, you can go to joelduggan.com. The interview is posted in the blog, and you'll also see a link at the top of the page. JetPens was kind enough to sponsor me. So it's easy. If you want to go to JetPens, just drop by my site first and click the sponsor link at the top. It takes you to the same site, but then they just kind of know that you heard about JetPens from me, which helps out both of us, I guess, in the long run. So yeah, it's a great site. If you're in the US, it's free shipping over $25, I think. And if you're a pen nut like I am, it is really easy to get up over $25 in art pens. Some of my pens are like, like my brush pen is like, $12, $14, that kind of stuff. So a couple of pens later and, a couple of refills, and you're certainly on the way to some free shipping. And cool thing is, of course, like because of the way that they're set up is that if you find a pen that you like, you can bulk order. So, I mean, you can order a box at a time and saves you from running out when you're drawing, that kind of thing. So
that's cool. I'm looking at it right now. They got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not an artist by any means, but man.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got some really nice stuff. Even just, I mean, I can imagine even some businessmen, that really like to have a nice pen for like signing contracts and, taking care of office work. Sometimes the weight of a pen will make all the difference in how you feel while you're writing and doing your daily stuff. And one last little note on the calendar is that this past weekend on Sunday, I was at the Dartmouth Comic Arts Festival. I've been plugging it on the show for a couple of weeks, and I wanted to give one last shout out to Cal and Strange Adventures Comic Books at strangeadventures.com, because they were the people that organized it. They were the people that invited me, and I had a blast. It was amazing. There were so many young kids with parents and teens and young artists and old artists, comic book fans of every walk of life at the Dartmouth Comic Arts Festival, and it was great to see new faces, to see current readers and people just coming up to say hi. It was a really, really fun experience. So mark it on your calendar for next year, folks, mid-August. Looks like Cal's going to keep it around the same date. So don't miss Decaf. And if you did, then sad face. But you can catch me hopefully at HalCon in November. Will be my next con appearance. So yeah, it feels like there's a lot of stuff to talk about on like the whole news front this week, which is bizarre. Normally it's just kind of like, so what happening? Nothing. On to what we're watching.
Just based on your plugs, I've already got like 6 tabs open that I need to check out later.
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, I am a wealth of useless information. It's funny how much you retain, over the course of a week of reading Twitter, and which is how I get most of the links and recommendations for this show. Is a lot of times it's just really cool people that I follow on Twitter that recommend some super sweet videos. But I feel like I'm talking a lot though, so I'm going to throw it to you. And what, sir, have you been watching this week? Anything filling your eye holes with gloriful goodness?
I just recently finished a show called Lie to Me. I watched it on Netflix.
Oh, nice. I've been meaning to check that out, but I haven't yet. It's on my it's not a queue anymore. It's called my list because I have a profile. But
okay.
But yeah, how is it?
Yeah, it's really good. The premise is really cool. Actually, it's interesting for a TV show. It basically centers around the main character Cal Lightman, who is a facial microexpressions expert.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so he'll do contracts for like the FBI or organizations like that. They'll say, "Hey, we need a lie expert or a deception expert, come in, help us out." And so that's what most of the show revolves around. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like Sherlock Holmes, but with your face.
Oh, cool. So now, how do they communicate that to you visually when you watch the show? Is it the same sort of thing with like in Sherlock Holmes, which is a great miniseries on BBC? Do they zoom in on people's faces and like do you hear like an inner monologue for the guy that's the main character like deciphering everything?
There's no inner monologue, but you can pretty much piece together what's going on based on their facial expressions, because at a pivotal moment in the episode, they'll zoom in on the person's face who he's interviewing or whatever, and his face will do like a twitch or something. And me watching the show, I have no training in this regard, so I don't see anything happen. Like, I just see their face kind of twitch a little bit. I don't see any expressions or anything. But then they'll slow it down a few seconds later and show you what it actually looks like. And it's quite startling, like how much emotion can come through somebody's face in such a short amount of time that most people can't even see it.
Wow. Now, and that must be extremely challenging as the actors that are playing the people that he's reading.
Yeah, I've thought about that from the first time I ever watched an episode of this show. I mean, I don't know if they just found a bunch of good actors or what, but it is crazy how I imagine that they shoot some of those scenes, 100 times just to get the perfect expression on there.
Yeah, I mean, and especially if you've got, I mean, I'm sure they take probably multiple takes, that sort of stuff. But
it's I'm sure they do. Sorry, it's really cool. They kind of teach you, quote unquote, teach you some of the techniques he uses, but you have to take it with a grain of salt, because I've actually looked up how do you say it? The guy that they consult for the actual scientific real world stuff.
Oh yeah, like he'd be like the professional consultant for the show.
Yeah, exactly. I've looked that guy up. His name is Paul Ekman. I'll throw a link up in the chat room. He basically, in an interview, he basically said, some of the stuff in the show is real, but a lot of it is just for theatrics. So you can't like watch the show and actually learn how to do the stuff that they're doing.
Well, yeah, I'd imagine that kind of stuff would take years of study. Well, and it's just like anything else. When you watched an old episode of CSI, they would say that the events here are not based on any one particular case, blah, blah, blah. But it is like, someone takes files that are made public after a serial killer has been convicted or executed or whatever. And these things are all a matter of public record. So they go and they look up and they take like the juiciest bits from the top 6 cases of the last 5 years, and they create like the super killer that is like the season, the season ender on a series of a CSI or something like that. They just kind of pull from all these real cases and amalgamate them into something that's more interesting as a viewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've been watching, which is it's not quite as, I guess, well, it's not based in reality at all, but it's got that kind of vibe to it, which is Hemlock Grove. And
Oh, I've been really interested in that. I haven't seen anything yet, though.
oh, dude, look, I mentioned this last week to say, hey, we were trying it, we heard about it, we had good recommendations, and it's good, but it's weird. So this week, again, no spoilers. I am hoping to have Lou Page on for a spoiler show on this particular series, though, because it's worth talking about in detail. It is still weird, but it is weird in a very, very good way. It's meant
Okay.
to make you feel awkward. It's meant to make you feel uneasy. Not to the level of The Walking Dead, because I get anxious when I watch that show.
Yeah, that's
But
more stressful.
yeah, but I mean, think about a pretty decent horror movie, like something like Alien, where it is
Okay.
genuinely scary. Um, it's got that kind of quality to it in some ways. It's more of a movie than a TV show. It's a Netflix exclusive, so it's got like 10 or 13 episodes, and they all just kind of bleed into one another as far as the plot and events go. And what's cool about it is, much like a slasher flick, you don't know who's safe.
Oh,
You might
interesting.
see a big name actor. I'm not going to say either way. Somebody might make it, somebody might not. And because it's not cable TV, if somebody dies, which does happen, because it's a murder mystery. So there's obviously some people that
Oh, yeah.
that get injured.
Right.
To
Can't have
say-
murder mystery without the body.
Exactly. And it's not simple. It's not someone got shot mugging somebody in New York in Law and Order, and they're looking for the person that pulled the trigger.
Right.
People are, in a very horrific way dealt with.
So would
And
you say it's something along the lines of the Saw movies?
I've never seen a Saw movie,
Okay.
but let's just say you don't want to eat dinner when you're watching the show. just to put it lightly.
Understood.
And what that usually equates to me, with my experience with movies like that are horror movies, is bad movies. The acting is usually bad, because the slasher flicks are usually, there seems to be this genre of kind of like B level slasher flicks that people like.
Yeah, yeah.
This is not. The writing is really good. The acting is also very, very good. It's a little off in places, but I honestly can't decipher whether it's off because it's meant to make you feel awkward, or it's off because it's bad acting. Like, it's
Yeah,
when
yeah.
when it's off, it's not completely out of place.
Okay.
But people swear. Teenagers are not speaking like they're 25. They are self-absorbed, vapid little creatures that deserve everything that comes to them. Like, they're the dumb shits that go outside when there's something bad outside. Like,
Right,
just stay in
right.
the house. But everybody kind of acts like you think they would act. It's really kind of refreshing. Like, it's not Dawson's Creek. It's not romance. Of the week. It's a very well thought out show, based on a book, and I'm blanking now on the author, but I'm going to look that up. It's and you can tell that there's a lot more to it than obviously just the one season. So what that makes me excited for is everything else that comes with Netflix exclusives and things that people get bent out of shape about when their favorite book is turned into a movie and the movie can't fit it all into 2.5 hours.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say, if you've got a book and it's really popular and you want to see it realized in the shape of a film or series of films, go the way of Game of Thrones, go the way of Hemlock Grove, get in touch with Netflix or HBO or somebody else and give us your story the way that it was meant to be told in chapters,
Yeah, totally.
It's such a good show. I highly recommend it to anybody that enjoys the horror genre. It has all of those elements that you like. You may also like it if you're kind of like a Law and Order CSI person, but there is some fantasy involved, so you have to be able to kind of be on board with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm sufficiently intrigued. I'm gonna check that out first opportunity I get.
Yeah, I'm on the Netflix page right now, and I'm unable to locate the name of of the author.
Oh,
So I'm gonna check it out on Google and see what I can find out. And I'm not even sure if Hemlock Grove is the name of the actual book, or if it's just the
just the name of the show.
name of the show. You know, whether it's like because it's the name of, I'm pretty sure it's the name of the place.
Oh, okay.
The place, yeah. Let's see. It
Well-
is based on a novel by McGreevy is the name, and Hemlock Grove is the name of the novel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into that too. I've been reading a lot more lately.
Yeah, well, Jocelyn and I were both thinking about that, and we're at this kind of point where we both like the original material, like we like Game of Thrones, and we liked reading the books before watching the show.
Yeah.
But now that we've seen Hemlock Grove, we're waiting. I mean, it's already been picked up for another series, another season. I don't know if they're filming right now, but they're filming soon.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'd want to read the book. I think I'd rather experience it the way that I've been experiencing it. I would want to read the book after.
Oh yeah,
You know?
definitely.
But I don't think I'd want to start to read the book like now.
Yeah, there's two different schools of thought on that. On the one hand, a lot of people say it's better to watch the movie or TV show first, because then all of the extrapolation that happens in the book is going to be new content to you, and it'll be more interesting and things like that.
Yeah.
But other people say they like reading the book first, because if they watch the show first, for instance, Game of Thrones, Tyrion Lannister, Peter Dinklage.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrion Lannister is Peter Dinklage in your mind forever now. You can't unsee that if you watch the show before you read the book.
Yeah.
So some people don't like that. So, it's kind of a trade-off.
Yeah, I had seen some artwork online while I was reading the book. So that to me kind of gave me what I thought Tyrion was going to look like.
Okay.
And I was reading via audiobook, so I also had the voice from Roy Dotrice.
Oh, yeah. Roy
my
Dotrice
head.
is just awesome, isn't he?
He's very, very good, yeah. So I had that combination. I think the only thing that I got, probably because Dotrice is an elderly gentleman, is that I was expecting the actor to be a little bit older.
Okay.
But it still works.
Yeah.
His voice just doesn't quite have the gravitas that it had in the books. But again, it's just because it's what you're used to, right? It's whoever,
Right. Yeah,
the first person. I mean, if we were to hear the original voice of Darth Vader before they decided on James Earl Jones, that would have been what we would probably be, sticking with our childhood. Instead we like James Earl Jones. So it's just
plus,
kind of
Roy
what came
Dotrice.
first.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Plus, Roy Dotrice has one of those real, he's obviously British, and he's got one of those real deep, gravelly, like the voice you kind of expect to hear in your fantasy story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the storyteller. He's got
Yeah.
the voice for narration. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of sci-fi and fantasy, one of the picks that I've had on the list here for a couple of weeks now, and I keep on missing the opportunity to share it, is a YouTube video where the man-at-arms, who is a blacksmith, a real-life blacksmith, makes the Sword of Power from Masters of the Universe. True to his name, because of course Man-at-Arms was a character in He-Man Masters of the Universe. He puts together a real-life, real working, real heavy sword. It's probably about a 5 or 6 minute video. Absolutely worth watching. It's just kind of like a compilation of the process of him making the sword and basing it on certain things. He's obviously not bending and folding steel over and over again like they would in the old days. He's using a saw to cut out quite a thick block of steel, and then hammering it flat with I can't remember whether he calls it a pneumatic or an electronic hammer, but it's an electric hammer. And
basically blacksmithing for the new millennium.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, this guy's made swords for movies and all kinds of things. Most of them though are aluminum, so they're prop swords. They're not meant to be.
Right.
They would never last in a real fight.
Yeah.
But this one it's got an aluminum hilt, I think, and that is just because the Sword of Power is so thick at the hilt and the pommel that if he had made it all of steel, he would have had trouble lifting it, and he's a big dude. So in order for it to be just wieldable, he had to make the hilt and pommel, and I think he probably balanced it a little bit with the pommel, but he made the hilt out of aluminum. Because it was easier to cut and easier to shape. But it is very, very cool. And He-Man was my first action figure. It was my first cartoon that I remember when I was a kid. So there's a lot of nostalgia going into this video, and it was very cool to see.
I'm
and then, of
watching
course,
it right now.
Yeah,
I got the audio turned off. But...
Yeah, at the end, it's really cool because, of course, they take the sword out into the parking lot and they take it to some old cars and some review mirrors and stuff like that. And it's, I wouldn't want to get hit with it. I would not want to get hit with it. But they look like they have some fun on that show. And they've done some really cool stuff, as a matter of fact. Just the other week, he released a video making, and I don't know the name of it, but it is the sword from Zelda.
The Master Sword?
I think so, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he did that. Jocelyn was very excited about that because Zelda, of course, is one of her favorite video game titles.
Yeah, I remember her talking about that at Nerdtacular.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's got some really cool stuff. So if you're looking for a YouTube channel to just kind of subscribe to, and every week or 2 weeks he throws something new up, I highly recommend Man at Arms because it's worth checking out. It's part of a larger station, so you might get some videos that you may not be interested in between, but I think he's worth it. And the last
workshop looks like a guard barracks.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah, he's got all kinds of stuff.
Man.
Yeah, and last but not least, from my childhood again, is two things that are near and dear to my heart: Star Wars and Batman. And talking about really good cartoons, of course, Warner Brothers Batman in the '90s with Mark Hamill voicing Joker is easily one of my favorite, cartoons and cartoon castings of all time. I would think that Mark Hamill is almost more famous for Joker than he is for Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And what somebody has done, thanks to my friend Jez Tuya, who shared this on Twitter, they have dubbed the voice of the Joker over the voice of the Emperor in Return of the Jedi, when, of course, Mark Hamill and Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader walk into the throne room and first talk to the Emperor. I didn't watch the whole thing. It's like 14 minutes, but the first 3 minutes are hilarious. If you're a Star Wars fan and you're a Mark Hamill fan, you really have to check this out because it is really, really clever the way that they've done it. Apparently, there's a little bit of a surprise at the end, which someone, not spoiled, but mentioned to me. I won't mention now, but just if you feel like watching the full 14 minutes, then go check it out and let us know what you think. I stopped watching, and that's because Jocelyn and I have been meaning to watch the Star Wars saga because I own it on Blu-ray, and I've only been through it the once, and that was like the weekend I got it back 2 years ago. So I've been wanting to watch it again, and this is like one of my favorite movies out of the series, and I couldn't watch it having not seen it recently. I need to go back and really watch Return of the Jedi. Like I need to watch this movie as it was meant to be seen, non-parodied, you want
to know what's supposed to be going on.
Yeah, well, no, it just made me want to watch Star Wars, seeing some of the calmer scenes without the Joker being dubbed over, the music from John Williams, all this kind of stuff. So I didn't finish it, so I'm recommending it, having not seen the whole thing. But hopefully next week I will be talking about how cool Star Wars was on Blu-ray.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with Blu-ray and Star Wars, man.
Absolutely, man. But that's it for me. I've been consuming a lot of little bits this week. Hemlock Grove basically took over our week. We watched 1 or 2 episodes a day to get through it because it was so good. But everything else has just been little bites of YouTube. So, what about you? Anything interesting on, say, your nightstand?
On my nightstand.
Your nightstand. Are you reading anything?
Books, man, I completely missed that one.
Yeah, it's okay. It was as subtle as a freight train, but it's your first time. We'll let it slide.
Apparently I don't do subtlety because I never catch subtle references. But, anyway, yeah, I just got interested in Stephen King's Dark Tower series. I just finished the first book a few days ago and got the second and third books from the library yesterday, I think. So they're sitting over there on the chair behind me, getting ready to be read.
Nice. What's the premise?
Well, how long do you have? It's really hard to describe in a way that doesn't make it sound cheesy or lame. However, the books themselves are awesome. Well, at least the first one was awesome. Um, I don't. It's basically set like way in the future, from what I understand. He's real ambiguous with his descriptions. Stephen King is
Hmm.
like you can kind of piece together clues, so you kind of think that it's in the future from present time, but you're not never quite sure.
All
So
right.
he's has a really interesting style of writing for these, for or at least for the first book. But it seems like it's set in the future, and humanity's kind of regressed backwards from technology. So the gunslinger is the main character, and he carries two six-shooters around and things like that. I don't want to explain too much because I feel like most of it is important to the story.
Oh, cool.
I don't want to spoil too much.
Okay, but we're
But I
talking
would,
like post-apocalyptic Western.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
pretty much, yeah, yeah, generally, yeah. I mean, I would highly recommend it for anybody who likes Stephen King books in general, or for anybody who just likes off-the-wall kind of fantasy books, because it is definitely not your traditional fantasy or sci-fi book by any means.
Cool.
I mean, go ahead.
No, is this the one where he tries to tie in, or is, not tries to, but is tying in all of his other works?
No, I believe actually the Gunslinger, the first book in the series, if I remember correctly, it was actually the first book he ever wrote. It just didn't get published first.
Oh, interesting.
And he's recently, recently, and as far as his life is concerned, gone back and actually revised the first two or three books, I think, because the story wasn't complete in his mind. So, like, because the way Stephen King writes, I don't know if you knew this, but he is a fascinating man to listen to in interviews. He doesn't like write an outline of how he wants the story to end up. He gets a general idea for a type of story and just starts writing, and wherever it ends up, that's where he finishes it.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's got this general idea for what he wants to do with the Dark Tower series, and as he's writing it, it kind of evolved a little bit. So some of the things in the first couple books became out of canon all of a sudden, based on where the story ended up. So he kind of revised them, and I actually read the revised version, so I'm getting the story he actually wanted people to read.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I've been looking for something to read lately, and I think that this might be it, because I've been watching a lot of westerns. I like sci-fi fantasy stuff, so I thought this was the one where he ties everything together, and that maybe that's the Dome.
Yeah, the Dome is the one they're actually making a TV series
Okay.
out of.
Yeah, because I mean, Jocelyn is a huge Stephen King fan, and she was reading the Dome, I think, and she had to stop because she hasn't read everything. She's read almost everything,
Okay.
and she either forgets or she needs to go read something else before she moves forward with this other book, because it's she knew she was missing references.
Yeah.
Like she would, the main character would pass somebody on the street and have a conversation with somebody, and it would feel important, but it would not be important to that character then.
Okay.
But it's
Yeah.
probably important to the just random stranger on the street who is like, like the main character in a different book.
Yeah.
One of my favorite authors, Christopher, oh man, what's his last name? Christopher Moore. Who wrote Lamb and A Dirty Job. He does the same sort of thing where he'll take like a tertiary character from one book who he'll find really appealing, and he'll write a whole book about them.
Oh, cool.
So depending on the order in which you read his novels, you get some very interesting crossovers, which I think is really cool.
Oh yeah, I like that kind of stuff. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. His stuff is hilarious too. He's kind of like a fantasy humor author. Really, really well done.
Oh, Christopher Moore.
Christopher Moore. Yeah,
All
he
right.
does. He does some really nice stuff.
Got yet another tab to open up.
Yeah, there you go. A Dirty Job is awesome. It was easily one of my favorites that he's written. Yeah.
I'm gonna check him out.
Well, cool. I'll have to check out the Dark Tower. I mean, I'm assuming that's available on audiobook too, because that's usually how I find the time to.
I think so, but I'm
Yeah.
not positive.
Does Stephen King read it? Because I'm not a big fan of his voice.
I'm not sure. I honestly I got a library card because I've been spending way too much money lately. So I'm
That's a good
kind
idea.
of holding back from audiobooks and things like
Yeah.
that for now. Because I wanted to actually read physical books anyway. Because there's a line that Tyrion Lannister says, and this is no spoiler, so don't run away, people. But he says the mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone.
Yep.
And I really feel like that's true. And I haven't
Mm-hmm.
actually read a book in so many years. And so I've just wanted to start reading again. And to be honest, I actually kind of feel better now. Like I feel like I'm catching on to jokes quicker and things like that. That might just be my mind playing tricks on myself, but that's the way it feels to me. And I enjoy
agree.
reading. So
yeah, I mean, and I'm one of the reasons why I haven't read more is that I tend to be a slow reader. But I also have a lot of paper books on my shelf that I haven't finished, and I'm a bit of a completionist there. And I was like, well, there's the really big gift that my dad gave me a couple years ago that I haven't finished. It's the autobiography, not autobiography. It's the biography of Walt Disney.
Oh, wow.
And it's interesting, but it's thick,
Yeah.
and therefore not very portable. So I haven't finished that. I have a couple of other books that I've been starting to read, nonfiction stuff. So I need to maybe pick up a fiction and a nonfiction and have them on the nightstand and on purpose, read them for half an hour, 45 minutes before bed. Maybe that's the best approach. I like to read outside of the house. Jocelyn and I were talking the other day. Our apartment doesn't have great light, which you would think as an artist I would have a place that has decent light. And my studio gets okay light in the morning. As a matter of fact, I'd say the studio is probably the best lit room in the place. But that's not where I read. That's where I work.
Right.
So like the armchair that used to be in the living room, it was okay. It wasn't great. The armchair that I'm talking about is now in Jocelyn's studio, and there's a lamp behind it, which is fine. But I really like reading in natural light. Like I really like just kind of sitting in the sun and reading. So a few years ago, when I was reading these Christopher Moore books, as a matter of fact, I would take them to the public gardens, which is a public park here in Halifax, and read on the bench there. And that was great. And I need to start doing that a little bit more, I think, because, of course, I mean, fall and winter are going to be here before we know it. And I've been feeling cooped up lately. So maybe the Gunslinger is something I should look at purchasing.
It's definitely, the one warning I would give about that book is it can be slow at times, similar to Game of Thrones. But
it's okay.
But
I like Game of Thrones.
the exciting things make up for the slow parts, and the slow parts are actually important. So when you get to something later that ties back to one of the slow parts, you're like, oh wow, I'm really glad I read that.
Yeah, well, and I mean the peaks don't mean anything if there's no valleys.
Right. Yeah,
I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
When it comes to like even something as short as a comic strip, like you have to kind of have the pacing before the punchline, otherwise it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reward is not worth the wait. Right on. Well, that brings us into the last segment of the show, which is the internet pick. And I have a YouTube video here to share, but it's a short one. It is simply a bunch of crazy people being pulled behind vehicles on trikes. It is once again credited to my friend Jez Tuya on Twitter. That is at JEZTUYA on Twitter. He's another artist illustrator, and he finds the coolest stuff. And I usually see it because he is on the other side of the planet. So when he's just winding down, going to bed, and looking at all this fun stuff, I'm just getting up and drinking coffee and reading Twitter and getting news. And in amongst my car crashes and political, bulletins in Twitter, I see trike drifting, and these crazy people are riding trikes that have these steel wheels on the back, and they're they're the size of coffee cans, a little bit longer.
Okay.
And there's no traction on them. The front wheels got traction, that's how they steer, but the back wheels just slide, hence the drifting. And they're going down city streets like pavement and drifting all over the place, and it looks like fun.
So, are these like tricycle motorcycles or like
No.
little red tricycles like the 3-year-old has down the street?
Little red tricycles. I want to say that they're more like bicycles that have been turned into trikes. Like I think somebody has taken the rear wheel off of a bike, because the handlebars in the front wheel are full size, adult size.
Oh wow. Okay.
But I'm telling you, man, that's why they need the car. They all hold on to this big buckle strap, and the car gets going, and then they let go, and they start going downhill. It's just like, all right, man.
Well,
and
I'm on board. Where do I sign up?
Yeah, there's only a couple of guys wearing helmets, and there's a couple points of the video where they go by some other cars coming, like oncoming traffic. And it's just like, guys, like, cool video, but don't die. Not something that I would do, but something that I would be very interested to be on the side of the street and see in real life, because I think it would probably be pretty neat to watch. I mean, and you can kind of tell from the way that these guys are handling these bikes that they've obviously been doing it for a little while, and I would imagine that some of them are like stunt BMX guys.
Oh
And
my gosh. That
yeah,
dude's like flipping around in a circle.
yeah, they do some pretty neat tricks, which makes me think again. Like they've been on bikes for most of their lives,
Yeah, it would
doing
stand to reason.
trick stuff, skateboarders, that kind of thing. People that have really good balance, really good sense of motion and turning and all that kind of thing. But it's a very neat video. So if you want something short and fun to digest before your dinner, then this is something something good. No gory deaths in this one. Everybody is quite all right at the very end. So what about you, sir? Anything to share with the crowd?
Well, I had one pick on YouTube, completely forget what it was. So let me
Well, that's
share
important.
let me share a podcast instead.
Absolutely.
Oh gosh, I meant to have this open and ready to go and completely forgot.
This is why we have show notes.
Yeah, I know. I definitely slacked off on that front.
Well, in
today.
the meantime, I'm going to give you shit about smoking. Have you quit yet?
No. I've definitely cut back even a little bit from when you saw me at Nertacular.
Well, that's
but
good. I mean, it's baby steps, right?
Yeah, baby steps.
As long as you're making progress.
All right, so do we want like Kevin Smith type humor?
Sure.
Or like something more serious?
Bring it.
All right, I am absolutely in love with almost all of Kevin Smith's podcasts right now. I mean, he is a vulgar, foul-mouthed human being, but he is hysterical. And Hollywood Babble-On in particular is awesome. It's him and Ralph Garman, who is he has bit parts in some of Kevin Smith's movies.
Okay.
Kevin Smith, if you don't know, he's the Jay and Silent Bob guy. He created all those movies, among others. And but Hollywood Babble-On is him and Ralph Garman, and they basically sit around and just talk about the Hollywood news, but they have segments like there's a whole segment dedicated to what bullcrap Justin Bieber has done this past week and things like that.
Rich people behaving badly.
Yeah, and Ralph Garman is phenomenal. I try to say fantastic and phenomenal at the same time. So Ralph Garman is phenomenal at impressions. So they'll do like Al Pacino reading Green Eggs and Ham.
Nice.
It's just hysterical. I was about to try. My instinct was to try to impersonate the impersonator, but that would not have gone over well. So I'll just let that one lie.
So what was the name of it again? Hollywood
Babble-On. It's BABBLE-ON.
Oh, like babbling. Okay.
Yes.
I was thinking Babble-On, like the historical fictional place. But no. Okay. Cool. Peyton is a big Kevin Smith fan. I don't dislike him. I just haven't. My podcast calendar is full, so I haven't made the room for anything new yet.
Oh, I totally understand that feeling.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I stumbled on Hollywood Babble-On though, because I stumbled on it maybe 5 or 6 months ago, or maybe a couple months before Nertacular. But anyway, since I discovered it, it has been one of the maybe 2 or 3 podcasts that I make sure to listen to every week.
Right.
Because I'll be sitting at my office, sorting files and trying not to fall asleep or kill myself, one of the two. And Hollywood Babble-On will come on, and I just start laughing out loud, like nobody else is in the room with me. It's just so funny that I can't help but laugh.
Yeah, that happened to Jocelyn tonight on the bus. She was there's a Twitter post to prove it, but she was listening to the final score on the way home. And Scott made a joke, and she laughed out loud on the bus. And now she was complaining that she's now that girl because she had the earbuds in. And she just let out a cackle.
Oh.
It's just like, oh God.
I do that at least once a week at work. Hop on the elevator, start laughing. People give me sideways glances.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever laughed out loud on the bus, but I've certainly grinned. Like I've certainly been listening to one of the Frog Pants shows, or I can't remember what. I used to listen to a comedy show, and I don't remember what it was. It might have just been like a comedy album. Peyton is very into those, and he would recommend them from time to time. And I probably listened to something like Dane Cook or something that was just something that would catch me off guard as obscene but funny.
Right.
Yeah, and then you're laughing because you're embarrassed, and then you're on the bus, and then you're smiling, and you're embarrassed because you're smiling on the bus, and it just all kind of just. It's a huge landslide. It just
you get to that point where you're smiling so much that you're almost laughing, but you got to hold it back because it's weird to laugh out loud in public.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, when I sketch at a cafe, I mean, everybody these days is on a cell phone or a laptop or tablet or whatever. But before that was commonplace, you'd see people walking down the street and they would have these stupid little Bluetooth headsets in.
Yeah.
And depending on what ear it was in, when they're walking by the cafe, you might not be able to see it. So me and my friends that would sketch would play this game, Bluetooth or Crazy. So is this person talking on a Bluetooth headset, or are they just talking to themselves walking down the street? And sometimes it would be hard to tell because some of the struts that guys have when they're talking, I
Yeah.
don't know, man. You know, it's like especially young people because they've got that high school walk that they think is the coolest thing, and it's like
Yeah.
he kind of looks like he's limping and mumbling. I don't know whether he's talking to his friends or whether he's really batshit crazy. I can't really tell.
That's similar to the game I play. I'll be at the grocery store and intuit that somebody is on their Bluetooth, but I can't be positive because it's on the other side of their head. So I'll just kind of walk up, pretend I am looking at stuff next to what they're looking at, and they'll ask a question. I'll just turn around and answer them, and they're like, "Who are you talking to?" Oh, I thought you were talking to me, man. I didn't see you on the phone or anything. I just like to mess with people sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too because like I never use my phone as a phone. Like I'm always when I call someone on the phone, I'm always using my headset because it's much easier and it sounds better. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to fumble around with it. Like something I mean I love my iPhone, but something that it doesn't do very well is just being a phone when you try to put it up to your ear. Like it just you never know where to put it. Like it's not,
Yeah.
I don't find it
It-
that great.
It's not exactly ergonomic.
No. Well, I mean, it's slim. It's just that there's nothing like before when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, folks, the phones
in
plugged
my
into the
day.
wall. There was a cord that was only so long, but
Yeah.
there would be a big knob that you speak into and a big knob that you put up against your head, and it was pretty clear which one was which.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the iPhone doesn't have that, so I find it when I first got it, I found it really strange. Like the speaker into your ear was too high or too low, or the your voice thing was too far away. But I mean, the newer models of phone are better. Like it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
it's an odd sensation. I much prefer the headsets.
Yeah, I'm the exact opposite, only because I ride my motorcycle most everywhere nowadays, so I don't really have room to carry around my headset and things like
There
that.
you go.
I'm always wearing a helmet, so I don't have it hanging off my ear or anything.
Of course,
But-
yeah. Cool. I don't. I think I did know that you rode a motorbike. What kind of bike do you ride?
I ride an 82 Yamaha XJ650 Maxim for all you classic bike nerds out there.
Nice.
It was one of the first bikes ever to be called a cruiser, but it doesn't look quite like cruisers do traditionally today. Like, Harley Davidson would be.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
but I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's old and it still needs some work done, but 5 weeks after I bought it, I had it on the road and I'm having a blast. So.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad that you're not a crotch rocket guy.
No, I can't stand them. I mean, I'm
thank you,
sure I
me
would have
either.
a blast riding them, but they just look so weird,
They
man.
look like death on wheels. I mean, we're talking about trike drifting.
Yeah.
A little while ago, the guys that I see cruising around on those things, I'm just like, man, I much prefer if I was to ever get a motorbike. Apparently, I'm not allowed. But if I was to ever get a motorbike, it would be I've always liked like the Harleys and like the
Yeah.
lean back. I'll get there when I get there experience.
Yeah, definitely. My
Yeah.
my dad's got a big old Harley Davidson. I mean, this thing is monstrous, and I've sat on it before, and my feet touch the ground like I can do comfortably and everything. But you try walking that thing around the garage, it's like moving a freaking boat.
Oh
Like,
wow.
It's so heavy. It's
Oh, I'd
unreal.
imagine.
I would never ride it just for that fact. Like I could ride it, but if I ever was about to get in a wreck, I'd be screwed.
Yeah, well, I
There's
mean,
no way I could control that thing.
well, and I mean, like, if you ever dropped it or you wiped out with it, like, you wouldn't be able to get back up.
Oh no, there's no chance. I'd be calling people.
Yeah. Calling people and apologizing, most likely.
Yeah. Actually, I might just be running for the border. Forget calling
Yeah.
people. Then they know where I am. My dad would destroy me.
Yeah.
Nah, he wouldn't. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But
Cool. Yeah, I've always had a kind of a romantic idea of a Harley, but
yeah,
I mean,
well, I'll tell you, they're a lot of fun. But Jocelyn's right; they are very dangerous.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I the rational person in me has always kept that kind of stuff in check. The one thing that I did come close to buying, and you'll probably laugh, is a Vespa scooter.
Hey, that's all right, man. You live in the city, right? Or
I
near the
do.
city?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
I
things
do.
are awesome for the city. I got no bones against those in the city.
Yeah, and that's what I was
People who
looking
live in
for.
the suburbs and ride them, however, those guys are weird.
Yeah, no, this is. I mean, I live downtown on one side of the harbor, and this was just kind of basically for bombing around and getting places. Like, when you
Yeah.
want to go to the movies, or you're doing something with your friends, and the buses don't run past like 11:30 on a weekday or something crazy like that. Like, it's a pedestrian city, but it's a small pedestrian city. So the population of Halifax is only around 350,000. I think last time I checked.
If you want an argument to tell Jocelyn about why you should get one, pedestrian cities are the safest place to ride because people who drive in cars are already looking for something smaller than a motorcycle. They're looking for pedestrians to walk across the road. The reason why there's so many motorcycle wrecks well, the reason why there's so many motorcycle wrecks involved with cars in the same wreck is 90% of the time the driver of the car didn't even see the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those psychology things where you could watch that video of people dancing, and you're like, well, how many times did they step in and out of the white circle? And then at the end, they're like, hey, did you see the giant penguin? And you're like, what penguin? And they replay the video, and sure enough, there's this giant guy in a penguin mascot suit who walks right through the middle of all the dancers, but you don't see them because you're paying attention to something else.
All right.
It's the same thing with motorcycles.
Interesting. Well, you seem well versed, at least, to be on the road and know that people are not looking for you.
Oh yeah, these are the little tidbits that I picked up in the class that I took.
Oh, cool. Right on.
Yeah, it wasn't mandatory, but it gives me a discount on insurance, so I suffered through it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, safer is always better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't feel like I needed it because I'd already been riding for a couple years. I didn't own my own bike, but I'd been riding pretty consistently on other people's bikes.
Cool.
So I knew how to control them and things like that. So I didn't really learn much practical in terms of controlling the bike and things like that. But I did learn some safety tips and things to watch out for and things to do to avoid situations before they happen.
Prevention is always the best medicine.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
are you driving to Nerdtacular next year?
I would absolutely love to make a road trip on my motorcycle out to Nerdtacular, but it's really going to depend on whether or not I'm still at the same job. Because it's hard for me to get time off. My boss has to cover for me because nobody else can do it, and he lives in Indiana, which is 2 or 3 hours away from where I live.
Right.
So it's really a hassle to take time off. So it's for Nerdtacular, I didn't take any days off on either end of Nerdtacular, actually.
You just
But
flew in for the weekend.
I woke up the morning after my last day of work before vacation. I was there, and then we actually stayed till Tuesday, but Wednesday morning I was right back at work.
Wow. Well, you're not kidding when you talk about job security. If no one else can do it but your boss, then...
Oh, man. The person before me trained me for a week, and I still had to figure most of it out on my own.
Wow.
It's just... don't even get me started.
Sorry, I didn't mean to walk you down the dark path of
that's
work.
okay. That's okay. I just don't want the podcast to last for 6 hours.
Well, speaking of, actually, this is where we have to wrap up the show because we've run out of time. But sir, it was a pleasure having you on. If anybody,
thanks for having me. This has
you're
been a
welcome,
blast.
man. No,
I'm honored.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. We'll have to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And next time I will not
whenever
ask you about work.
Okay.
I promise.
You can if you want. Just I might have to tell you I can't explain because it would take too long.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to catch the show live or possibly the next show that Joel might be on, you can watch us every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on joelduggan.com/live. You can also find the show on demand on the citadelcafe.com. The music for the show, incidentally, was composed by Kevin MacLeod. And to write the show, it is just our name, the Citadel Cafe at Gmail, Twitter, Facebook, Google. If you can sort out the social media avenue of your choosing, we are probably there and probably more than happy to hear from you. If you happen to be wondering what you're going to be doing on Friday night, let me tell you right now, you should be tuning into the Gamers In podcast, which is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on amove.tv. If you're a gamer like Joel, tune in to Jocelyn and Ryan as they break down their opinions on the latest gaming news and what they've been playing. You can bet your butt that they've been watching Gamescom and are going to be talking about some of the new stuff coming out. I know for a fact that someone in this household has a beta to Hearthstone as well from Blizzard.
So lucky.
And that might come up on their show as well. You can visit gamersinpodcast.com or amove.tv/TGI for details. As I mentioned at the top of the show, my name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am up to online at joelduggan.com. That is also where you can find my book, Starcrossed Volume 1, which is a collection of all of my comic strips on starcrossedonline.com. It's a great gift. It's a great thing for the bookshelf, something that you can read that is going to sharpen your mind like a whetstone. You can find me. You can find me on Twitter and Google Plus with just my name, Joel Duggan. Now, this is normally where I ask Peyton, but I have to ask myself where I can find me online. But I'm not talking to me. I'm talking to you, Joel.
Oh, right.
What is the kick-ass Twitter handle that you can share with people?
My Twitter handle is Robut, Robut.
You bastard.
Funny story, just real quick. In college, my friend decided that I was a robot, and they started calling me the Robot, a la Futurama.
Mm-hmm.
So it's stuck.
Yep.
And I just happened to be one of the first people on Twitter, so that didn't hurt either.
No,
But
that
yeah,
doesn't. It
that's
doesn't
about
hurt
all
to
I
be an
have
early
going on
adopter.
these days. I'm on Google Plus, Joel Cain. That's about it, though. I don't have any websites or anything at the current moment. So
Yet.
yet is the key word there.
Yet. Well, when that changes, we'll have to have you back on to throw in a plug or two.
Sure, sounds good.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.
Anyone know any good jokes?